This is my Lord Azula deck, just a little more in-depth explained. We've got Lord Azula in blue, black, red. It's got Firebending 2. Whenever you cast a spell with Lord Azula, or when Lord Azula is attacking, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Making a deck with Lord Azula, it's fairly straightforward, but this deck here is a little janky because I kind of wanted to go in a similar but different direction. So we're going to start with some miscellaneous cards. We've got May, Jaded Edge, Prowess. You can exhaust for 3 and put a double strike counter on May. I just like May, I think she's cool. Firebending Student, Prowess. Firebending X, where X is this creature's power. We've got Ozai, the Phoenix King. Trample, Firebending 4, and Haste. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes red instead. Ozai is flying and indestructible as long as you have 6 or more unspent mana. Zhao, the Moonslayer. Menace. Non-basic lands enter tapped. If you pay 7, put a Conqueror counter on Zhao. As long as Zhao has a Conqueror counter on him, non-basic lands are mountains. Got Ty Lee, because Ty Lee is also cool. She's got Prowess. Whenever Ty Lee attacks, you may pay 1. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. May, Scornful Striker. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. And Lowen Lee, Twin Tutors. When they enter, search your library for a lesson or noble card, reveal it, put it into your hand. Noble creatures you control and lesson spells you control have lifelink. Here are a few cards that take things from other people. We've got Azula, Cunning Usurper. Firebending 2. When Azula enters, target opponent exiles a non-token creature they control. Then they exile a non-land card from their graveyard. During your turn, you may cast cards exiled with Azula, and you may cast them as though they had flash. Mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. What's nice is if they have flash, you can cast them when you're attacking with Lord Azula, and you may have copies of those spells, potentially. Hama, the Bloodbender. When Hama enters, target opponent mills 3 cards. Exile up to 1 non-creature, non-land card from that player's graveyard. For as long as you control Hama, you may cast the exiled card during your turn by waterbending X rather than paying its mana cost. So once again, the potential for copying. Agent of Treachery. It's a pricey 7. But when this creature enters, gain control of target permanent. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. Bribery. Search your opponent's library for a creature card, put that card onto the battlefield under your control, then that player shuffles. Stealing stuff is fun. Fire Lord Ozai. Whenever Fire Lord Ozai attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, add an amount of red equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Until end of combat, you don't lose this mana as steps end. If you pay 6, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards without paying its mana cost. And we have the Rise of Sozin. So the backside that I had it on is kind of what I want to go to here. First chapter, destroy all creatures. Second chapter, choose a card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name and exile them. And the third chapter, you get to flip it to Fire Lord Sozin. Menace, Firebending 3. When Fire Lord Sozin deals combat damage to a player, you may pay X. When you do, put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So more stealing. Just so we could make doubles of creatures with Azula, we have Idia Kramer, or Teferi, Mage of Well, my glasses aren't working. Well, he's a mage. It has flash. Creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield have flash. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. So the main thing is, creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield have flash. We also have the Blue Spirit. You may cast the first creature spell you cast each turn as though it had flash. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters during combat, draw a card. We've also got Jodi, Public Servant, which is Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. You may have Jodi enter as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Jodi's other abilities. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. So nice, you can have legends twice. Clone. You may have this creature enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. And we also have Amber Island Productions. So you'll notice I've been making copies here. Choose one. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it's not legendary, and it's a 4/4 hero in addition to its other types. Or you can create a token that's a copy of target creature an opponent controls, except it's not legendary, and it's a 2/2 coward in addition to its other types. So we're most likely going to do the 4/4 hero. And what are we thinking of doing with all these cloning, copying? Well, we have the Phoenix Fleet Airship. At the beginning of your end step, if you've sacrificed a permanent this turn, create a token that's a copy of this vehicle. As long as you control 8 or more permanents named Phoenix Fleet Airship, this vehicle is an artifact creature. So hopefully we can sacrifice something so we can make copies. But also, if we crew it, it becomes a creature, and then we can use a clone or the Amber Island production or Jodi to copy it to make more of them faster. So we can have a crew of, well, we can have a fleet of airships that don't need to be crewed. So what other wacky things do we have in here? We've got Foggy Swamp Visions. As an additional cost to cast this spell, Waterbend X, exile X target creature cards from graveyards. For each creature card exiled this way, create a token that's a copy of it. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice those tokens. So you can use it as a one-off, or if you happen to have Sundial of the Infinite, for 2, you can pay 1, tap it, end the turn. And then you can keep all those. Sundial of the Infinite is only in here for Foggy Swamp Visions. It does nothing else. But what's nice is you can sacrifice it. And if you do, who cares? We have Dockside Extortionist. Now Dockside is banned, so you can take it out and put something else in. There's no tricks with the Dockside Extortionist in this. You're doing basically what it says. When a creature, or when this creature enters, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. You're just looking for treasure tokens, so you have something to sacrifice. And you have artifacts. We have Nyla, Shirshu Sleuth. When it enters, exile up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, you lose X life and create X treasure token. Sorry, that would be nice. You create X clue tokens, where X is that card's mana value. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no clues, return target card exiled with Nyla to its owner's hand. You're mainly doing it for the clue tokens. Clue tokens are nice. You can sacrifice them as well as draw cards. The Machinist, Aerial Artisan. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a clue token. When you tap it till end of turn, target artifact token you control becomes a 3/1 construct artifact creature token with flying. Azula, On the Hunt. Firebending 2. When Azula attacks, you lose a life and create a clue. We have June, Bounty Hunter. June can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. If you pay 1, sack another creature, create a clue token. We've got Obsessive Pursuit. When this enchantment enters and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. Whenever you attack, put X +1/+1 counters on target attacking creature, where X is the number of permanents you sacrifice this turn. If X is 3 or greater, that creature gains lifelink till end of turn. We've got Raven Eagle. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, create a clue. When you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. We have the Lion Vulture. At the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and draw a card. So you get a buff and a card draw. Fire Navy Trebuchet. It's got Defender, Reach. Whenever you attack, create a 2/1 colorless construct artifact creature token with flying named Ballistic Boulder. That's tapped and attacking. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. So again, you got a sacrifice there already. With some of the sacrificing, we've got Pirate Peddlers. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So we could buff up the Pirate Peddlers pretty good with their clue tokens and the Ballistic Boulder and maybe the treasures. We have Jody, One of Many. If you pay a black and tap, Survey 1. Create a token that's a copy of this creature, then sacrifice an artifact or creature. So you could sacrifice the Sundial of the Infinite if it's no longer of use, or anything really. We've also got Intruder Alarm. So this works with Joe D, one of many, very well. Creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Whenever a creature enters, untap all creatures. So you could potentially use Joe D, one of many, over and over again. Why would we want to do that? We have Bastion of Remembrance. When this enchantment enters, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. But whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. So Joe D helps with the fleet. With this card here, you're also going to be pinging everybody for 1 and gaining a life. And Warstorm Surge. Whenever a creature you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So with Joe D, you're also going to be doing 2 damage every time she creates a 2/2 token of herself. So in this, we have some removal cards or potential removal cards. We've got Ty Lee, once again, because Ty Lee is awesome. She has Flash, Prowess. When Ty Lee enters, tap up to 1 target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Ty Lee. We've got Shattering Spree. It's got Replicate for a red. Destroy target artifact. Fierce Guardianship. Counter target non-creature spell. If you control your commander, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. I consider it kind of removal. Scarring Memories. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if you control an attacking legendary creature. Target opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice, discards a card, and loses 3 life. Volcano of Roku's Island, which is also Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Whenever a mountain you control enters, if you control at least 5 other mountains, you may have this land deal 3 damage to any target. What would this be without Lightning Bolt? Deal 3 damage to any target. Lightning Strike. Deals 3 damage to any target. Firebending Lesson. You may pay the kicker for 4. Firebending Lesson deals 2 damage to target creature. If the spell was kicked, it deals 5 damage to that creature instead. We've got Volcanic Torrent. It's got Cascade, and it deals X damage to each creature and planeswalker your opponent's control, where X is the number of spells you cast this turn. We've got Fire Nation Drill. When Fire Nation Drill enters, you may tap it. When you do, destroy target creature with power 4 or less. If you pay 1, permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. So you can get around that indestructible and hexproof. Heartless Act. Destroy target creature with no counters on it. Or you could remove up to 3 counters from target creature, most likely using the destroy target creature. Desperate Plea. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Choose 1 or both. Return target creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield if its power is less than or equal to the sacrificed creature's power. And we may destroy target creature. Combustion Man, because Combustion Man is cool. Whenever Combustion Man attacks, destroy target permanent unless its controller has Combustion Man deal damage to them equal to his power. We've got Day of Black Sun. Each creature with mana value X or less lose all abilities until end of turn. Destroy those creatures. If you were going to board wipe, I would suggest hopefully having Waterbender's Restoration first. As an additional cost to cast this spell, Waterbend X. So you just Waterbend with all the creatures you're hoping to save. Exile X target creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you can use this, then use Day of Black Sun. We've got Bloodbender's Rise. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on this enchantment. When a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if this enchantment has 3 or more quest counters on it, you may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, gain 2 life. And we have Sold Out. Exile target creature. If it was dealt damage this turn, create a clue token. So, removal and creating a clue. Few more cards here is we've got Whirlwind Technique. It's a hefty 6. But target player draws 2 cards, then discards a card. Then you get to Airbend up to 2 target creatures. So you have potential removal there, or you could do it to your own creatures. We've got Frantic Search. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Untap up to 3 lands, essentially letting you cast it for free. Zuko's Conviction. You may kick it for 4. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was kicked, instead put that card onto the battlefield tapped. We've got Frantic Confrontation. Target creature you control gets +X/+0 and gains first strike and trample till end of turn. Waterbender Ascension. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, draw a card. You may Waterbend 4, and target creature can't be blocked this turn, so we can make sure we get damage through. Fervar. Creatures you control have haste. Haste is always very nice. We have Yu, the Moon Spirit. Yu has Waterbend 5. Tap. You may cast a non-creature spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. Yu is actually really good for the deck because you could do this during combat and double the value with Fire Lord Azula. Like doing it for Secrets of Bloodbending. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may Waterbend 10. You can use your Firebending to help pay for it as well. You control target opponent during their next combat phase. If this spell's additional cost was paid, you control that player during their next turn instead. Using you to Waterbend and just bring it in almost like a flash. During combat, you can double that value. You've also got Clone Legion. For each creature target player controls, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Again, using you can double that value by casting it during combat. And she can do that with the enchantments or anything else you have that's a non-creature spell in the deck. And to close out the deck, we have the same finisher we have in our main Zuko deck. We've got Overwhelming Victory. It deals 5 damage to target creature. Each creature you control gains trample and +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of excess damage dealt this way. To make sure we get that excess damage, and we're going to do Fated Firepower, which has Flash. With Azula, you can copy it, so you have 2 Fated Firepowers on the board. This enchantment enters with X fire counters on it. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus an amount of damage equal to the number of fire counters on this enchantment instead. So just imagine attacking with Fire Lord Azula and casting these during your attack step, getting double value for both of them. But before you do, you're going to want to cast Sozin's Comet. Each creature you control gains Firebending 5 till end of turn. So you cast this first, or you could use you to cast it during your well, you can't use it during your combat because then it's too late. So you cast this first, you go into combat, you cast these 2 to double the value, and you could pretty much make it game over at that point. Another little thing we have is Vindictive Warden. It's got Menace, Firebending 1. If you pay 3, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent, which you can close out if you have a lot of Firebending, including the Sozin's Comet as well. Although it's more fun to use the Sozin's Comet with the Overwhelming Victory and Fated Firepower. So that is a little more in-depth into the Fire Lord Azula deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.